By the way, Margaret Ann and June have been picking out the songs, and just to keep things going, I'm going to let them keep picking out the songs, and when I can be here, I'll get to sing with you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think I'd rather hold this. Now, can you hear me? One of my favorite writers is Dr. Charles E. Poole, and I have read stories from him more than once, I believe, in this Bible study. And today I'm going to read one of his stories, and it's called Between the Sacred and the Ordinary. Many years ago, on a cold January morning, I was flipping through the television channels when I stumbled across a broadcast sponsored by the Catholic Diocese of Chicago. It was called Mass for Shut-ins. As the program began, the priest said, "Welcome to Mass for Shut-ins on the second Sunday in Ordinary Time." If the priest's greeting was designed to corral potential viewers out there in TV land, it certainly worked on me. The idea of Mass for shut-ins was rather intriguing, but it was that other phrase that really captured me. The second Sunday in Ordinary Time. What I later learned was that in the priest's mouth, the words ordinary and time were spelled with a capital O and a capital T. They referred to a portion of the liturgical year, a stretch of weeks called ordinary time. There is something alluring about that simple phrase, ordinary time. Though it occupies a rather minor place on the calendar of the Christian year, the phrase ordinary time feels large when it falls across our ears. After all, that is where most of us live most of life, in ordinary time. Life is punctuated by a few special moments and grand events, a festival here, a celebration there, but most of life is lived in ordinary time. One of the surest signs that we are growing toward a mature, sensitive, open-eyed faith is when we begin to see more and more frequently and clearly the sacred presence of God in the most ordinary moments of life. It is a sure sign of deepening faith when we come to see that the gap between the sacred and the ordinary is mostly imaginary, a gap not of God's making, but of ours. When we begin to look at all of life with a sensitive and discerning eye, the gap between the sacred and the ordinary begins to disappear. If ever anyone saw a sacred side in ordinary time, it was Moses. Moses stumbled over God in the most ordinary kind of time. He was at work, doing his job, tending a flock of sheep. It was quite ordinary work, which Moses did in the ordinary way, ordinary day after ordinary day. In the midst of his own ordinary time, though, something surprising caught Moses' eye. He saw a bush burning, but not burning up. He saw enough to make him look again, and the second glance led to a closer look, which in turn led to a life-transforming moment in which Moses found himself on holy ground in the presence of God. It was for Moses an encounter with the sacred in the midst of ordinary time. Moses' moment serves well as a parable of the truth that God is present in the most ordinary of life's moments and places and deeds. But unless we have an eye out for the sacred in the ordinary, we will miss it. I wonder how much we have missed because we have not learned to see the sacred in life's ordinary moments. This is the truth to which Elizabeth Barrett Browning pointed out with her unforgettable verse. Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God, but only he who sees takes off his shoes. The rest sit around and pick blackberries. We do not have to miss so much. There is a whole other way to live. It is what the Quaker Thomas Kelly called life lived on two levels, going about the ordinary routine task of the day, while at a deeper level simultaneously seeing the sacred in the most ordinary kind of moment. I fear I have missed the sacred much more than I have seen it. But by God's grace, I have recognized some very ordinary bushes ablaze with the light of God's presence. There's no more powerful commentary on all this than those piercing words formed from the final act of Thornton Wilder's play, Our Town. His wonderful character, Emily, has died at the age of 26. She's allowed to choose one day of her life to relive. She chooses her 12th birthday. Thornton Wilder lets us see the day as Emily relives it, and he allows us to hear Emily's response to it all from the perspective of one who has died and now realized how precious and sacred is the routine day of ordinary life. As Emily watches her 12th birthday unfold, she sees everyone rushing about, consumed with this issue or that matter. And she says from her new perspective of death, I never realized before how in the dark live persons are. From morning to night, that's all they are, troubled. Though no one can hear her, she pleads with her mother, oh, Mama, just look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me. Let's look at one another. Finally, she says, I can't look at everything hard enough. I didn't realize. So all that was going on, and we never noticed. Do human beings ever realize the life while they live it, minute by minute? That's all human beings are, just blind people. Don't you ever wonder how much we have missed? I wonder how much sacred has slipped past me, unseen, unrecognized, unnoticed. Viktor Frankl once wrote, project yourself onto your own deathbed. Now, from that vantage point, what do you wish you had done with your life? I know what I wish. I wish I had looked harder, with a wider eye, and a more sensitive soul. But I suspect I have missed a lot I should have seen. When I project myself onto my own deathbed, that is a part of what I wish. I wish I had looked harder and seen better. But we are not yet on our deathbed. We are yet alive. So it must not be too late for us to look and see. I am haunted by Emily's plea. Just look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me. And by her question, do human beings ever realize life while they live it, minute by minute? We must learn to see. We must learn to, from our Quaker friends, to stop, to be still, to center down, to be silent enough to hear the sacred, and open enough to see the sacred in life's ordinary sounds and sights. We learn to look around the table and wonder if this time might be the last time. We may never learn to look at everything hard enough, but we must begin. We must begin now. Who knows how much of the sacred we have already missed, and who knows how little of life is left.